Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Hi, this is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive director of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're coming up on our 4th year anniversary. March 15th was the beginning of Whitetail Rendezvous. It isn't when we launched. We launched actually in August 31st, 2015. But back in March of 2015, Bob Rourke and I got together and decided to begin building and framing out and interviewing and doing all the things you have to do to launch a podcast. Well, it took a while, folks, but here it is now, 2019, and we've had over 600 episodes. We've had close to 400,000 downloads, and I met some fantastic, interesting people, and the stories and your stories have been fantastic, and we shared a tremendous amount of information. But looking back, we realized that we wanted to do more in the industry. So I'm creating Deer Hunting Institute. What is Deer Hunting Institute? Well, it's following the 3 R's: recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters throughout the country. DNRs are having programs set up and people involved that are doing exactly that, because we need to recruit more hunters. We need to retain the hunters that we have, and we need to reactivate hunters that have left and had kids or switched jobs or just don't hunt anymore. We want them back in the field. So Deer Hunting Institute is aimed at doing that. And I look at it as we have people that are never hunted. We have beginner hunters. We have seasonal hunters. What's a seasonal hunter? Well, in Wisconsin, it's a 9-day season, and people get their gear out a week before. They hang it out in the backyard and they on their bibs, and they get air washed. They sight their rifle in, shoot it a couple of times at the range, and then they go sit on the stand they've been sitting on for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And it's a hunting tradition. It's a tradition about heading up north, heading to the cabin. Well, a lot of things have changed over 53 years that I've been hunting whitetails. And yes, the traditions are still there, but the way we hunt, how we hunt has all changed. And so Deer Hunting Institute's going to talk about that. We're going to talk about lost in the deer hunting forest. That's somebody that's never hunted. And if you take somebody that's never hunted, hunting the first time, it's a whole new ball game. You think about what is a hunter. You think about what is an adult-onset hunter. A lot of people are looking at hunting as ways of providing organic meat for their families. Rules do apply. So if you're going to be a hunter, you're going to know what the rules, statutes, and regulations for your state are. Finding a mentor. It's so important to have somebody help you become a hunter and help you become a better hunter. And lifelong relationships have developed over hunting. Dick Rogers took me to this family farm along the Baraboo River in Wisconsin back in 1966. So this year, is it 53 or 54 years? I don't know, but we'll be hunting the same farm that we did back then. That's the hunting tradition. Choice of weapon. How do you want to hunt? Finding a place to hunt. It's getting tougher and tougher. It used to be knocking on doors. You find a place to hunt. There's a lot of public land out there, and S47 just came through and hopefully will become law, and that opens up or protects our public land. So there is public land, but you have to find it. Scouting hunting locations is very important. Stand sites is equally as important. Stand access and excess. Reading sign, and finally, when to hunt. You think about all those things that I just shared, and each component is a story in itself. There's people, you go to seminars this fall, this winter, the spring, the summer, and there's deer classics and expos. Iowa Disc Classic just ended, where they had some great speakers talking about deer vocalization. Art Highland, Own the Season TV, is a great friend, and he talks about how deer communicate. And you start hearing that, and so a beginner, that might be too much. So what Deer Hunting Institute first course is going to be is targeted at person that never hunted, or the person that's just a beginner hunter, been out hunting rabbits or squirrels. And further courses are going to be about meat hunting, about mature buck hunting, and about trophy hunting and targeting the seasonal hunter. But the first I'm going to share with you is about stand sites, why they're important. So listen up. It'll be 7 to 10 minutes. And at the end of it, I'll tell you how you can get Deer Hunting Institute consulting from me, a personal one-on-one session with me. So enjoy stand sites. On this chapter of Deer Hunting Institute, presented by Whitetail Rendezvous Media Group, hosted by Bruce Hutchin, we're going to talk about stand sites. Now, what's a stand site? Well, it might be just you putting your butt on the ground against a tree and hanging out there, tree or a rock. Could be a hang-on, could be a climber, could be a ladder stand, could be a ground blind, could be a permanent box blind. There's a lot of things that we call stands, but the biggest thing is that it's a place, we know where it is, we go there often, or when the conditions are right, and it's a place that we know that deer should come by or come to at certain times of day. Let's talk about back in the wintertime, you did some scouting and you found out where the major trails were. You found some secondary trails and wandering trails, but the main trail, especially where they intersect, is always a good place for a stand given a specific time of year. And we'll talk about stand sites and specific times of year later in the course. But for right now, I wanted to introduce you to putting a stand where you have the greatest opportunity, the lower averages is going to run for you, that you're going to need to see a buck or doe come within 20, 30 yards of your stand. And realistically, unless you're on an edge or unless you're sitting on a field, that's the length of the shot in the woods, folks. That's kind of what it is. Yeah, there's some situations where you might get a longer shot, but let's just say with the 20 to 30 yard range on your stand. Now, going back to the travel corridors, we find two intersecting lines. Where are you going to put your stand? One, it has to be in a tree. If it's a tree stand, that can hold the stand, and it can hold your weight and offers you a good opportunity to shoot. And if you're right-handed, then you got to think about, okay, if I'm pulling and drawing my bow, okay, where's my best shot angles? Where's my best situation that I can shoot and kill this deer? And when you get up in the stand, you have to figure that out. Why? Because when you set up your stand, you got to trim. And like I said, later in the course, I'm going to get into the fine details. But you have to pick a stand site that you can raise your bow, draw your bow, and then let loose your arrow in not a lot of time, typically, and then hit your deer and harvest your deer. So you have to figure out, okay, what time of day is that deer going to come through? Where is the wind direction? And where's my concealment? All those things factor in because deer are smart. I've had deer, especially does, bust me because they know where my stand is, and they come down the trail and they look right up to where the stand is and they see this blob there. I'm not moving. I might be sitting down, but they still see me. You know, they're just looking, and they'll make that head bob and foot stomp and all the rest of the things that they do. But stand sites are important. So travel corridors, main travel corridors, you got to figure out what side of the stand of the trail, you want to put your stand. Then we have funnels. Well, funnels are just exactly, if you take a funnel and that you've used to pour gas in your car or oil into your engine, you know what a funnel is. Okay, so it's wide at the top and then it funnels down to really narrow. That's exactly what a funnel does. And the best way to see those are on Google Earth or an aerial map of your property that you're hunting. You can see what the natural funnels are. They might start a quarter mile away, but they funnel down to the place that you want to put a stand in representation of the wind. Okay, wherever the wind's coming from, you want to be downwind crossing of that funnel where the deer are going to come through. So just think you're going to be on either the left or right of that trail, that funnel for the wind. Always keep that in mind. Next, we get pinch points. Now, pinch points might not be a funnel. They might be, everything's going hunky-dory. Then all of a sudden there's a rock there, or there's a big lake, or there's something either geographically or in the landscape that is causing a pinch point where the deer have to. They don't have a choice. If they go one way, they drop off a cliff. They drop into a raging river. They might even drop into a swamp. You can see a lot of trails that'll come down to a pinch point, and they don't necessarily want to go through that swamp. They certainly will, but they might not want to because they're heading to food. So pinch points are exactly that. They could just be 10 yards in length or 50 yards in length and 10 yards wide. But it's a pinch point where the deer have to come through that if they're going to go through. And if they're not, then they have to go way out of the way. Again, we talked about earlier that with deer, they're going to take the easiest, most effective, efficient route from bedding to food to water. So think about pinch points as it could be a very short piece of real estate that they have to go through. And following that up, bottlenecks. To me, bottlenecks and pinch points are basically the same thing. Bottlenecks, if you commute to work or you've seen them, what is the bottleneck? Well, it's really narrow at the top and then it widens out. To me, it's the same thing as pinch points. And if somebody has a correction for me and wants to explain it better, reach out to me at deerhuntinginstitute@gmail.com, and I'd love to have a conversation. Stand sites at food sources. Deer eat. We know that. Deer eat typically in the evening. They come off the food in the morning and go back in the evening. Yes, there are times of days that you can see deer out in the fields during daylight hours, but typically it's those magic hours right after dawn and right after dusk. And if you're going to hunt near food sources in the morning, you want to be off the food sources. You want to be in that transition zone. In the evening, you want to be closer to the food source because they're going to come to a staging area and then they're going to come on to the food source. And the does and the fawns come first, and then the young bucks come, and then the older bucks kind of don't come out till it's dark, but they're close, but they're just watching, see what's happening because they're hungry too. So you got food sources. Then you have water sources. Deer drink. The axiom is food, cover, and water for whitetails. You have all those three things on your property, you will have whitetails if they're anywhere near or around. So water sources. The heat of the day is a great time. They'll get up briefly and go to water. They'll go to water after eating. They'll go to water after bedding all day. They will come to water, and you got to spend time on it, put a trail camera up, and monitor and see what days your local deer are coming to the water source. Then you set up accordingly. Bedding cover. Bedding cover is a great place to be, but you can't get too close. It's a fine line. Is it 100 yards too close? Is 200 yards too close? Depends on the density of cover. Last year during the rut, I was set up. I wasn't 50 yards from a bedded doe, and she was there, and I never busted her because I watched my wind. I slipped in there, and then I knew she was there, and it paid off because I had bucks coming through checking and looking for her, and she would come out of the cover every evening, and I was just waiting for the right buck to come through to harvest that buck or to see what kind of buck it is. But be very careful how close you set up the bedding cover, and be very aware of how you access and how you set up. Last thing I want to talk about are saddles. Okay, they're contour changes. Now you get a ridge and you just have a dip, and it might only be 2 feet difference between the right and the left side, but in the middle you get a little saddle. And deer love saddles. Elk love saddles. Big game of any type love saddles. Why? Because it's just easier to get to one side to the other. And with that, I'm going to wrap up stand sites. If you have any questions, reach out to me at deerhuntinginstitute@gmail.com. Hi, folks. I hope you enjoyed module number 10, stand sites. And in that, I tried to give you the highlights. And again, Deer Hunting Institute is a beginner's course. I'll get deeper into the subject matter either on a one-to-one consulting basis, and that's why I wanted to bring that up now. Anybody listening to this can go to my PayPal account at surfersc09@gmail.com, and for $100, you can schedule 1 hour with me, and we'll talk about any module that you want to talk about for that time. I'm not going to go through the whole course because the course is going to be more than $100, but I will talk about any specific segment of Deer Hunting Institute module for $100. So if you're interested in having a one-on-one conversation with somebody who's been hunting whitetails for 53 years, has hunted throughout North America and been successful taking numerous deer My biggest is a buck out of Saskatchewan. That's a great story in itself. It was 4 days at 22 degrees below zero. So it was a tough mental hunt, not a tough physical hunt, but a tough mental hunt. So saying that, if you're interested in one-on-one consulting with Bruce Hutchin about whitetail hunting, any of the modules that I shared in the earlier part of this recording, please reach out to me on PayPal and book your time with me. And you can do that at whitetailrendezvous.com/schedule. PayPal account is surfersc09@gmail.com. And the fee for a 1 hour consultation is $100. So reach out to me. You can call me at 719-640-0175 if you have questions, or you can reach out to me at my email address at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. So I look forward to hearing from you and look forward to helping you become a better hunter.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.